Welcome to the Mccleoud Show. I'm Molly, and in each episode, I sit down with Mccleoud to explore the principles and strategies behind creating more success, freedom, and fulfillment in life and business. So today, Joelle's going to break down what's really happening in the moment somebody quits, how to build persistence in yourself, and how to know whether you actually want the thing you're chasing. Joelle, another exciting episode coming up. How are you doing?
I'm doing incredible. How are you?
Good, excited to get into it.
Me too.
Napoleon Hill gave persistence an entire chapter in Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he gave it that much weight?
Because persistence is essential and nothing's going to happen without it, for one. Like, everything's going to fail. So if you've got a goal, like, you've got a plan, like, the desire is all going to collapse, like, at the first knockback, right? So the universe is never going to give you anything, like, if you're not persistent first. And what you've got to understand as well is that there's a gestation period, right? Like, every seed has one. So let's say, for example, when a woman gets pregnant, we know that it usually takes about 9 months for the baby to arrive. That's no different from, a vegetable or a fruit, and it's no different from your goal as well. But what most people do is they dig it up, before it gets time to sprout. So your results today are a manifestation of what you thought about in the past. So there's always a lag. And you'll notice, right, like, most people quit when there's a lag. Like Napoleon Hill said, like, when money comes in what's known as the big money, like, it comes so quick and so fast that you wonder where it was all of those lean years. And, like, I look back and I think, like, fucking hell, like, that's so true. Like, all them years that I didn't have money, and now money just comes so quick and so fast. Like, you look back and think, where was it all of those years that I was broke? But persistence is absolutely essential, Molly.
100%. I think, it's been vital for you just keeping going. I remember you saying, the difference between you and others is just the fact that you didn't quit.
Yeah, so true.
A lot of people would say they're not a persistent person by nature. Is that what's really going on?
No, not at all, because persistence isn't something that you're born with, right? It's not a personality, it's a habit. And what is a habit? A habit is an idea that's fixed inside of your subconscious mind. So if you're not persistent, like, I'll tell you, the problem right now is that your desire is not strong enough. Like, if you've got a weak desire, then you are going to quit when the going gets tough. And believe me, like, on the way, like, there's going to be obstacles and there's going to be challenges. And if you don't really, really want what it is that you're going after, then you are going to quit. And when you think about it, there's all this talk about motivation. Listen, motivation is going to run out. And that's why motivation can't be the fuel. Discipline is what's going to carry you when the motivation's gone. Now, all discipline is, the best definition of discipline that I know, I learned from my mentor, Bob Proctor. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. And you build discipline the same way that you build a muscle. Repetition is what builds it. So I'll give you an example. Like, some people will turn around to me and go, Joel, like, how do you like going to the gym every day? And I say, I don't. Okay, but the difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is that successful people do things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. But do you want to know something? Like, successful people don't like to do them. Like, I don't like getting a cold shower every day, but I'm disciplined, and now it's a habit. And a habit is just something that you do without even thinking about it. So let's say if you go to write something in your notepad today, like, you don't have to think about what hand you're going to write it with. Like, you automatically rather write with your left hand or your right hand, right? So repetition is what builds it. And if people are not persistent, it's nothing to do with, like, if you was born with it. It's just you've not built the trait. And persistence is a state of mind, and like all states of minds, it can be built.
So it comes down to how badly you want it. How does someone actually build that desire?
So you got to make sure that you set a goal that you actually want. Earl Nightingale's definition of a goal of success, is success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Now, an ideal is just an idea that you're in love with, not that your partner's in love with, not that your friends are in love with. Like, you've got to be going after something that you really want. And it's also got to be a goal that you don't know how to get. Because the real purpose of a goal, like, it's not to get the house, it's not to get the watch, it's not to get the car. Like, they're side benefits. And don't get me wrong, like, they're good. Like, I love the side benefits as well. But the real purpose of a goal is to grow, So if you know how to reach your goal, like, I'm telling you right now, like, it's the wrong goal. Step two, like you've got to get emotionally involved with it. So we build the idea, we find out what we really want, we get emotionally involved with it. In other words, we see ourselves with it. Okay, we see ourselves with it. We don't see ourselves working towards it. Now, as soon as we're emotionally involved with it, emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. Once we're emotionally involved with it, it's going to alter our behavior. And when our behavior changes, we're going to start to see our results change as well. Okay, so repetition, the only reliable way of doing it is through repetition combined with the help of an experienced mentor. So you want to get your goal card. Okay, you want to write down what you really want. You want to read it as often as possible. You want to feel it. And it should be the last thing that you see before you go to sleep. And it should be the first thing that you see when you wake up. Also, your environment as well. You know, you want to get around people that are already living it. Like, you're the average of the books that you read and the people you spend time with. You know, like, I don't even care if it's a family member, if it's a friend that I've had from school. Like, if they're not goal orientated, if they're not positive, if they're not productive, I don't want to spend time with them. And the reason is that I don't want to catch what they've got. You know, we're very susceptible to the people that we spend the most time with. And also accountability. You know, there's a great quote that you've got to do it by yourself, but you can't do it alone. You know, so what I do for my clients, and I always say to my clients, you know, I don't take credit for your successes, and I also don't take credit for your failures as well. Like, my job isn't to fly all around the world to all of my clients and knock on the door and tell them to do it. I'll give them the plan. I'll tell them exactly what to do. And if they do it, the results are going to be incredible. Okay. But it's up to them. Like, are they going to do whatever it takes? And are they going to do exactly what I tell them to do?
There'll be a lot of people watching that persistence is their main challenge. They're frustrated with themselves because they maybe journal and do these things for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and then they start. What's your best piece of advice for them? You
got to go and back look at your desire. Okay, so when you want your goal, when you're going after something that you really want, right? I always say there's A-type goals, there's B-type goals, and there's C-type goals. An A-type goal is when you set a goal that you know how to achieve. A B-type goal is something that you think you can achieve. And a C-type goal is what you really want. Now, when you find out what you really want, there is no quitting. I don't care how many challenges come in my day. I cannot quit. Why? Because I'm going after what I really want, what I love. I'm obsessed with it. So if someone's finding that they're weak in persistence, they need to go and put more wood on the fire, and they need to build a stronger desire. And you'll notice, like, the people with the most energy are the people with a burning desire. You know, I hear people all of the time say, like, you know, I've got no energy. And what they're really saying is, like, I've got no desire. You know, because we are energy. Like, food doesn't give us energy. We are energy. Like, we're a walking mass of energy, right? So if a person doesn't have energy, what they're really saying is they don't have no desire, because the triggering mechanism for releasing energy is desire. So you've got to go and have a look at your desire.
Was there a point where this changed for you personally?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say about 3 years ago, because, you know, I was consuming information for 6 years. So in other words, I was getting smarter and smarter, but my results weren't changing. Like, my mentor, Bob Proctor, read Think and Grow Rich every day. So I was reading Think and Grow Rich every day. I was watching Bob Proctor on YouTube, and my income never moved, right? So what I realized is that knowing wasn't my problem, the becoming was. So I had to change the version of Joel that was actually watching these YouTube videos and reading Think and Grow Rich, right? So what happened for me is, you know, I got mentorship. You know, so I was earning £15,000 a year, and I invested $10,000 into myself. And I didn't know, like, how I was going to pay it back, right? He helped me with a payment plan, and I didn't have a fucking clue, like, how I was going to pay the next installment. But I thought, do you know what? Like, my way's not working. I'm losing. How much worse can my life get? You know, I'm struggling to pay the rent. I can't take my kids anywhere. I'm broke. I'm frustrated. Like, it can't really get more worse than this. So I decided to bet on myself. And within 5.5 months, I turned my yearly income into a monthly income. So I went from £15,000 a year to £18,000 a month. Now, again, like, the difference wasn't more information, right? It was doing the same small things every day when nothing was showing up. Like, if I would have looked in my outside world, I would have quit. But my mentor taught me it's got nothing to do with the outside. It's what's going on with inside of you, right? So my results changed when I got mentorship. And one thing my mentor said to me is that it's going to be impossible for you to change your results from your level of awareness. You know, you've got to see yourself from my level of awareness if you're ever going to change your results. Now, did my mentor share new information with me? Not really. It was still the same information. He helped me change the identity. He helped me change the version of me that was consuming the information. So, that's when things really changed for me.
And I think things have changed massively within the last few weeks and months, you could say. You're following on social media, your finances, a lot of things in your life. You've been persistent for a long time now. What would you say are the main things that you think, as of recent, have changed to improve your outcomes?
Again, investing in myself again. So I might have hit my first £100,000 month, but I also invested $45,000 back into myself, right? So my biggest expense is mentorship, because why am I going to spend 3 years trying to figure something out, which I might be able to, when I can just learn from someone that has already done it and stop me from going into the potholes that I would go into? So I'd say mentorship was one of the big things. And also it's just the repetition. You never know when the results are going to show themselves. So for example, for 2 years, I had on my goal card, like, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've earned 100K in a month. It didn't happen for 2 years. Now you got to tell me, like, was I persistent? I could have turned around after a month and said, oh, it's not worked, and quit. But I knew if I hold an idea in my mind, it eventually has to express itself into physical form. So on day one, in my mind, I was already earning 100K a month. And again, the law of gestation, right? Like, I planted the seed. It's not up to me when the seed harvests, but I knew if I kept planting it, it had to show. Now, it took 2 years for the goal to show. But if you ask me if it was worth it, fuck yeah, it was worth it,
100%. Yeah, definitely. What would you say to someone who's doing the work but getting nothing back yet?
Well, you're closer than it looks, for sure, right? Price Pritchard, he's got a great book, small book called U Squared. He said, absence of evidence is not evidence of its absence. So what have you got to understand? For one, you've got to understand the laws of your being. And you've got to understand that even though you can't see it, like, it's here. And if you stay in the right vibration, you'll attract it. Now, listen, the results, they always lag the work. Like, don't quit in the gap, okay? Because the gap doesn't mean that it's not working. The gap just means that there's a time and a period between what you've got on a spiritual level manifests on a physical level. So what I want people to do is, first, don't judge yourself on the outcome, okay? Judge yourself on the process. So let's say, if someone starts the gym and they go for like 2 months and they look in the mirror and they say, shit, well, it's not working, and then they quit. Well, for one, they're never going to get in the shape that they want because they quit, okay? And also quitting is a decision. When you quit, you make a decision. But I mean, you tell me, right? If a person eats the right foods and goes to the gym every single day and just focuses on the processes, what's going to happen? Like, they're going to get in fantastic shape, right? So you don't focus on the outcome, okay? You focus on, like, the conversations you've had, not the sales that you've made. And I'll give you an example. Like, I get told no every day. Like, I get rejected every day, but I'm just constantly putting offers out. Like, I don't base my wins off whether the person said yes or no. I base my wins off my actions. Does that make sense? So like this podcast episode, like, I'm not basing if this is a success off how many views it gets. I'm basing off a success of I put some more value out there. It doesn't matter about the result for me. And another great example is like, someone like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, or even like Cristiano Ronaldo and David Beckham. David Beckham's probably missed the most free kicks in football, but he wasn't afraid to keep going. He was persistent. He kept focusing on his processes. And even like Kobe Bryant, one of the best basketballers ever, he's missed the most shots in NBA history, but he wasn't scared. So these are the same people that miss the most. They also scored the most, So the reason why I've seen so much success is because I've just been willing to take more rejection than the average person is willing to handle. Does that make sense?
100%. I think we've seen that even with this podcast, haven't we? We've got better every episode.
Yeah, and think about this, right? Like, if you quit now, like, you don't go back to zero. I don't want people thinking like that. Like, you go back to the same place that you was 12 months ago, right? And then you're paying double. Like, remember, time's the most expensive currency, and failing at something doesn't make you a failure. Like, you're only a failure when you quit. So half of the game is staying in it long enough and not quitting, but you're not going to do that if you're not going after something that you really want.
It's all part of the journey. I agree. What's one thing someone listening can go and do this week?
Well, what I want them to do is I want them to pick one income generating action, and I want them to commit to it every day for the next 7 days. Okay, like, not one day, like 5 days. Like, if you've got an offer or a service, like 80% of your activity should be on selling. Okay. Now you're not going to be able to sell your service until you ask someone to buy. You're not going to be able to ask someone to buy until you have a conversation with them. So most of your activities should be around having conversations with your ideal client, but I want them to pick one action step that they're going to take every single day. And I want them to do it every single day, regardless of the results. Okay. Now I want them to write this action step down, sign it, and also send it to someone who's going to hold them to it. And the reason for this is, you know, everyone takes out insurance on like the house and the car, right? But no one takes out insurance on the goals. And that's what accountability is. Accountability is an insurance policy against failure. Then I want them to judge themselves off like whether they did it, right? Not on like what came from it, whether the person said yes or no, because for the next 7 days, like doing it is the win.
Noted, Joel, and I'm going to implement this as well, and I want you to be my accountability partner.
I will.
Do it today and don't stop when the results are slow. And if you want the daily routine Joel runs himself, he's put together a free framework called Pathway to Riches, 5 practices that change who you're being, not just what you know. The link's in the pinned comment and in the description. Thanks for joining us on the Joel Mccleoud Show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who would benefit from it. We'll see you in the next episode.